Ayman, as the fights got closer, has any of your preconceived notions about Joshua versus Dubois changed at all?
I just feel like in amongst the conversation discourse about this fight, a lot of people are kind of going with, and fair enough, it all does apply. It will apply to pretty much any heavyweight fight when it comes to, whoever kind of lands first heavyweight boxing, any punch can change the outcome of the direction of the fight. Fair enough, if you want to say that and go 50-50 and say whoever lands that punch first, Joshua Dubois, can win that fight there. Fair enough if that's the way you feel about it. But I just wonder if it's kind of been overlooked a little bit, the actual boxing IQ of both fighters, and really kind of that's what's going to get whoever does win the fight over the line. When I've been asking fighters about this fight, I've been asking about the defensive capabilities of Daniel Dubois, because the conversation after the Hrgovic fight was how leaky Daniel Dubois' defense had been for the Hrgovic fight. Now, I have the feeling that he fought that way because he really wanted to get at Filip Hrgovic, and he just proved that, look, if it was going to happen, then he was going to self-destruct, or at least try and destroy Filip Hrgovic before he self-destructed, I guess. But I don't think he's going to fight that same sort of way against Joshua, at least not in the early rounds, and he might then open up to being a bit more gung-ho, because Dubois loves to really kind of throw those hooks in, really kind of looks to destroy his opponents. And when it comes to AJ, people are really kind of wanting to talk about the destructive AJ of the past and whether we'll see a return to that. But that's just not how AJ fights at all now. And with Ben Davison in his corner, talking about game plans, talking about setting up shots and finding that shot and finding that moment, like with Helenius, he takes his time for that moment. And I don't think he's going to be looking to engage unless he really has to, or the opportunity or the scenario that they've worked on really kind of elapses. So I really feel like this is going to be a battle of kind of wits here and reaction between the two of them. These are still two hungry fighters. Zhang alluded to when I spoke to him, he said, like, I think I asked him about AJ and what he thinks about AJ as a fighter. I think I might have asked him his prediction of the Dubois fight. I have to go back and double check this, but he kind of said the words of, like, AJ's a businessman now. He's got kind of one foot out the door, and this is the opportunity for Dubois to really capitalize upon that. For me, I've got a feeling about Dubois, and I will reserve this, like I did with Fury. I will reserve my Fury Usyk. I will reserve my proper prediction, if that means anything to anyone, up until fight week, because I'm liable to flitter back and forth between the two of them. But I like the momentum of Daniel Dubois. I do like the want to go and really push and get that knockout for Daniel Dubois. I think he's proved something in this the conversation surrounding his heart. I think Don Charles has brought a real balance to his corner. I think he's took the baton from Shane McGuigan aptly as well, and those foundations that Shane and other trainers of the past that have put into Daniel Dubois, I think he's really carried that on well, and he's not tried to defashion Dubois. Really, just a little couple of tweaks and a bit of confidence there that Don Charles has imparted upon Daniel that's really kind of helped him shine through. And I just feel like this is good timing for Daniel, who's had the better opposition between the two, as opposed to tailored opposition or familiar opposition like Wallin or like an Ngannou. I think that those will really pay dividends. And right now, I'm picking Dubois to win that fight.
Wow, this is a clip out. This is perfect. Yeah, I am probably still picking AJ. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get over the golf in experience and general quality of opposition. Like, Dubois' quality of opposition over the last 3 fights has been far superior to Joshua's. And he's come through his 2 toughest tests in his previous 2 fights, which is pretty impressive. But over the course of his career, AJ's fought pretty much everyone, except Fury, of course. But, Usyk, Joseph Parker, a lot of the guys that are having resurgences recently, or still in and around the top 10. Joshua's already fought them, and the majority he's defeated. Povetkin, who was still useful, he dealt with him pretty well. So many kind of underrated, perhaps, victories, performances on AJ's ledger as well. Dubois is going to be coming into this highly motivated, nothing to lose. He can come back from a defeat here, just as he did against Alexander Usyk, and previous to that, Joe Joyce. but it is kind of levels, isn't it? And I think AJ is, again, a higher level than Jarrell Miller and a higher level than Filip Hrgović, who, I don't want to make excuses, but he didn't look as good as I've seen him in the past, Hrgović, and hasn't for some time, in fairness. I think with Hrgović, he stayed in that number one position with the sanctioning body for too long. And I think he kind of withered on the vine a little bit. That's not to discount Dubois' career best performance in beating him and coming through a difficult first 2 rounds to do so as well. But I just think he could trouble AJ early, particularly with the jab. I've seen this fight compared to Lennox Lewis against Frank Bruno, in that Bruno was out jabbing Lewis early on. But then once Lewis kind of got into his rhythm and started catching Bruno kind of slowly but inexorably fell apart. And I see a similar thing here. I think AJ can maybe start a bit too slow, but take his time, weather the storm, come out on top, start out boxing his opponent, and ultimately find the gaps as Dubois tires, as he's prone to do in the second half of fights. And as Dubois tires, kind of pick him apart for a highlight reel stoppage, but one where both men come out with credit. AJ proves that he's still got plenty left in the tank. Dubois shows that he can hang at what is the real top level and can come again, just with a bit more seasoning and a bit more experience. But yeah, who knows if I'm right or wrong. Let's go to the chat. Who knows if they're right or wrong as well. Where are we? Gary says, I speak for everyone at Seconds Out when I say we support Daniel Dynamite Dubois. Frank Warren, our man, has chosen the right time. There's no favoritism here on SO Live. Yes, Frank Warren is my good friend and a Hall of Fame promoter, as I'm always saying, but that doesn't mean I'm kind of backing Dubois. I like Dubois a lot, and I've followed him since the very start of his pro career. But you've just got to acknowledge the truth of the situation. I think, Joshua, you'd be mad to pick against Joshua, who's looked great recently and has the better overall resume. I guess the knock is that Joshua in his last few fights hasn't fought anyone that's going to give him a big test. So in terms of the step up in quality from recent opposition, he has the bigger leap than Daniel Dubois. And I think that's something that is in Dubois' favour. Gary says, Wardley Clark will be a bloodbath again. Wouldn't be the first time in Saudi, so Turkey and the gang will be fine. DB Cooper one, I'm going with Dubois simply because I loved his old man Stan's interview. What a man. Everyone's writing Daniel off like he's some kid. Cloud Strife says AJ's resume is underrated, to be honest. I definitely agree with that. DTD says, as Dubois tires, what? You mean AJ there, surely? No, because I don't think AJ is going to be expending as much energy in the early rounds of the fight as Dubois. I think he'll be kind of tucking up, having a look, trying to get his jab established. And I think Dubois, it's his first time in the truly big occasion, an elite heavyweight world title fight. Because bear in mind, we didn't think the Hrgović fight was going to be actually for the belt until after it happened. It was only for the interim title. He'll be burning up a lot of nervous energy. He'll be feeling like he needs to push AJ back and earn his respect from early on. So I think he'll be doing a lot more than AJ in those early rounds. But again, obviously I could be wrong.